Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All praises are Allah's, Lord of the worlds, and may His peace and blessings be upon our Holy Master, Prophet Muhammad, and His pure immaculate Ahlul Bayt.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
As I said last night, inshallah, for the next 8 or 9 talks and speeches today, we're going to explore the different perspectives and layers of meaning in relation to one article of faith that we have, which is specific to Shiism, and that is the concept of Raj'at, which literally means returning. There are 6 or 7 different positions. We'll focus on 4 of them, the 4 major ones. And we'll go through it slowly, and it may get difficult at times, but there's no need to rush things. We'll go through it slowly, and inshallah, things will fall into place. For the first 2 or 3 nights, though, with your permission, if we don't have any questions after the speech, let things fall in a bit, and then from the 4th or 5th night, you can ask questions. Although personal questions after the speech is no problem, but open Q&A from night 4, I think, because things have to start falling into place for you before you want to ask questions. Okay. So Raj'at is the theme. It's a form of returning. Now in Islam, not Shia, in Islam, there are 2 broad categories of returning. Returning, Raj'at, can be divided into 2 broad categories. And each category can be subdivided into 3. So that makes it 6 positions for now. Those 2 broad categories of Raj'at, of returning, can be divided into the esoteric Raj'at, which has 3 forms, and the second, the exoteric Raj'at, which also takes 3 forms. Just in case some of you weren't here, exoteric meaning the external dimension of a given article of faith. The external dimension, the superficial understanding of it, which is good and necessary. The esoteric dimension of an article of faith explores the inner secrets of that article of faith. Both are necessary. There's an exoteric Raj'at, which we will explore inshallah, and there's esoteric forms of Raj'at. Both have to be explored. In relation to, I'll start with the esoteric first, although I'll start with the exoteric, but just to explain what the 3 types of the esoteric and exoteric are, just give you the 3 of each category, and then we'll start with the exoteric in detail. So with esoteric returnings, esoteric Raj'ats, sorry if I keep repeating the term in English and the Arabic, I just want to make sure we're all speaking on the same plane. There are 3 types. There's a spiritual Raj'at.
Aga, can you speak up, please? We can't hear you.
Also, yes, okay. So the esoteric Raj'at, there are 3 forms. There's the spiritual Raj'at, the mithali Raj'at, and the social Raj'at. 3 different types, all 3 esoteric, all three having their adherents and proponents. With the spiritual Raj'at, it's a case of returning to one's fitra. Inna lillah, we are Allah's, verily, wa inna ilayhi raji'un, verily, to Him, to Allah, we shall return. Here, this is the spiritual Raj'at. It's the story of the I acquiring unity with Allah, that return to Allah, that return to one's fitra, the capacity within us all, that fitra allows us to acquire unity with Allah. That book of existence, if you recall, that I spoke in the month of Ramadan. But that is the spiritual Raj'at, and that's not specific to Shiism. So this wouldn't be the Raj'at which is required as an article of faith within the Shia school of thought, because the Sunnis also have the same concept of inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. There's no problem there. Here in this Raj'at, the spiritual Raj'at, it's all about moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya ayyuhal insan, O man, whenever the Quran starts the verse with this clause, O man, what follows is a providential or takwini order, something which is a natural truth in all humankind. What is that truth that resides in all human beings? Ya ayyuhal insan, innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadha. Verily, you're striving towards your Lord, a severe striving, or you're striving towards your Lord laboriously. Famulari. The first tense is famulari. Then you will encounter Him. Now things become very interesting all of a sudden. Well, this is just a marginal point I'm mentioning. This isn't the Raj'at, with your permission, just come to the margin here. Famulari, then you will unite with Him, encounter Him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But everyone will. Ya ayyuhal insan, all humans, be you Muslim or non-Muslim, everyone will acquire that unity with Allah. But here, the difference is with which attributes of Allah will you acquire unity with? With awareness. Because be you a Muslim or a Kafir, you will acquire unity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With the Kafir though, you will acquire unity with, as a result of your own actions, as a result of the Kafir's actions, you will acquire unity with the attributes of majesty, the majestic attributes of Allah, the Jalali attributes. Here, majestic attributes such as Allah as the conqueror, the compensator, the punisher, the evaluator, the misguider, or but as a result of your own actions, you wanted misguidance, you will be misguided. You did bad deeds, you will be punished. But these are Allah's majestic attributes. As a result of how you acted in this world, you acquired unity with those attributes of Allah. But you still acquired unity with Him, with awareness. Whereas with the Muslim, they also acquire unity, but they do it through the Jamali and Jalali attributes. Both the majestic attributes and the attributes of beauty. they're in unity with Allah's attributes such as His compassion, His love, and so on and so forth. The key is that one has to be at play with Allah's attributes both times. If you get drowned in Allah's attributes of beauty, or if you get drowned in Allah's attributes of, the majestic attributes of majesty, you will fall either way. An example of being drowned in Allah's attributes of beauty alone is what we see sometimes with these pseudo-arifs, pseudo-Sufis, where they reach a degree where they become drowned in Allah's compassion. Allah is all love now, to such an extent that they become oblivious to Allah's attributes of majesty, and then they come up with the conclusion that we don't need to do salat anymore. It's a truth, it happens. Why does it happen? And they were true wayfarers in the beginning. Something went wrong during their wayfaring. They were oblivious to Allah's majestic attributes. Because if you get drowned in Allah's attributes of beauty, without seeing Him as one who will punish if you don't abide by His orders, if you don't see Him as one who conquers over or takes revenge, well, these all have specific meanings. If you don't acquire unity and awareness with those attributes and get drowned in the attributes of beauty, then one of the side effects is you forget, you don't do salat anymore. You think it's not necessary for you because of what you've experienced, because of the visions you've had. It's possible. But Amir al-Mu'mineen, the Imams, the Prophets, they would pray until the very end because Allah's majestic attributes, they were always in contact with that. They never got drowned in either way. And that's why the Sharia is so important. It remains important until the very end. Okay, that was just it. Then there's the social Raj'at, the social returning, also called the socio-political returning. It's one position on the Raj'at which Sheikh Mufid also accepts, although Sheikh Mufid accepts a number of different understandings of Raj'at. One of them is the social Raj'at or socio-political, and all this means is that the returning qualifies only to the returning of Ahlul Bayt rules and Shia law throughout the earth, as if there's a world supremacy and the authority being Shia law. That's what they mean by Raj'at. You know, the common understanding amongst the laymen is one form of Raj'at, and that's when the dead become revived. You know, from all the dead since Prophet Adam alayhi salam, a number of those who have passed away after the coming of the 12th Imam, they will also return from their graves, and we're going to speak about that. We'll stop tonight. But that's one. That's an exoteric type of Raj'at. But anyway, Sheikh Mufid accepts that form too, but this is another form which he accepts, where it only speaks of a kind of supremacy of Shia law throughout the earth. The return of this kind of law, they regard as a form of Raj'at. There are traditions on this, and one scholar who has accepted this as the Raj'at, and maybe I haven't seen too many scholars, or the many books on Raj'at I've read, as deep and as analytical as this scholar. And he's an Iraqi scholar, Muhammad Sadiq As-Sadr. I'll call him Muhammad As-Sadr from now on. But yes, he was between, what did I think? About 30 13 or 14 years ago. A very good scholar. You know. We've had many Iraqi scholars martyred. I mean, in Iran, when we began the revolution, we've had many scholars, the Mutaharis, the Daskhins, and these all were scholars, but there were many Iraqi scholars martyred under Saddam's regime who were very strong. Many of them are still not known. But this is very important work. Anyway, he believes in this form of Raj'at and explain his theory. He uses traditions from the Ahlul Bayt. He has a very good analysis. We'll come to that. And then the third form of esoteric returning is that of the Mithali type. Now, if you were here in the lectures during the month of Ramadan, it will be easier for you to absorb this Mithali type. I will, when we come to it, I will give an introduction again, just in case of those who weren't here. This is the Mithali Raj'at now. Now this has its adherents, especially amongst the Urafa, people like Imam Khomeini, Ayatollah Hassan Zada Omari, Imam's mentor, Muhammad Ali Shah Abadi, and many others. The late Sayyid Jalal Ashtiani, and many others. Now this Mithali Raj'at can also be divided into two types of Mithali Raj'at. One that occurs right now, day to day, and one that will arise after the coming of the 12th Imam. So with the Mithali Raj'at, there are two forms here. Now, what does Mithali mean? Just, although we'll come to it maybe in 3 days' time. Here, we're speaking in the realm of visions now. Visions and apparitions. Where visions of certain figures will return. Now, they're not physical anymore, if you recall. It's like the visions that Lady Maryam alayhi salam had. فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. When Archangel Gabriel appeared before her as a human being, though. That was a vision. The human being wasn't a physical entity. It was a manifestation, a mithali. Mithal means similar, because it's similar to a physical body. It has size, shape, color, but there's no physical matter in mithali manifestations. And it's all within the soul. It's a product of the soul. But we'll come to that eventually. Most of the adherents to the Mithali Raj'at also believe in the exoteric Raj'ats, that the physical body will also come. Doesn't mean whoever accepts the Mithali Raj'at rejects the physical Raj'at. That's not the case necessarily, although many do. Imam Khomeini was one of them who didn't accept the physical Raj'at. He didn't like it. With proof, with his istidlal, and we'll come to all those gradually over the next few days. Ayatollah Hassan Zawde, he doesn't approve of it too much. They both say it's not impossible for the physical body to, depending on what you mean by the physical body reviving, we'll come to that. But they don't accept it. They don't accept this form. Imam Khomeini believes that that which is a fundamental, that which is one of the daruriyat of the Shia school of thought, okay, that all Shias accept, is the general principle of Raj'at, of a returning. The principle is accepted by all. But when you enter the particularities, that is, the particularities are not one of the daruriyat. I'll just quote what he said in one of his works. He says, in response to the issue of Raj'at, Imam Khomeini said, That which is indisputable is the principle of Raj'at. And this is one of the Shia schools of thoughts, Daruriyat. You see, this is one of the Daruriyat of the madhab, meaning the Shia school. And we have evidence of this much. The principle of Raj'at is indisputable. But anything more than this, i.e. that a body will be created, or the original body will be brought, and the pure spirits of those who return will enter into the bodies, there is no such evidence. Hence, it is possible that the issue of Raj'at be of the mithali, apparition type, albeit arising in this world. Lady Maryam was alive in this world. She had a vision. The Husseini Raj'at, when they speak of Imam Hussein alayhi salam returning after the advent of the 12th Imam, may be of this type. After all, we have proof of the principle of Raj'at, not of its quality or mechanism of action. The latter is not part of the Daruriyat. So that was his position. So that's three forms of the esoteric Raj'at. Concerning now the exoteric, the external, the superficial understanding of Raj'at, this may also be divided into three. One is a takwini, or ontic, or if you like, the different translations for takwini, but pot, creation orientated, or some people even call it generative, but I don't understand exactly the reason behind that. I'm not saying it's not true, but I think it's a return of nature. Every year with the coming of the spring, there's a return of green vegetation, trees, plants, and so on and so forth. That's also a Raj'at. According to the verse of the Quran, the concept of return qualifies in relation to this annual return of new life, new trees, and so on and so forth. But this can't be regarded as one of the Daruriyat either, because the study schools of thought also believe in this. It's nothing specific to Shiism. Second form of the exoteric Raj'at is a legislative return. Now this is what the common layperson understands from Raj'at today. This is this Raj'at which has occupied most people's minds. And here it's a select number of people who have passed away since the time of Prophet Adam. They've passed away. These people, after the advent of the 12th Imam, these people will return with physical bodies. They will return and come back. Select people from each ummah, from each group of people. Then there are some traditions, although they are solitary reports, speaks of the very good and the very bad will return in physical form. Now here, and we'll come to this in a bit more detail in a minute, but the reason that they return, as the theologians claim, is that the very good and the very bad, they return because Allah's justice has to be manifested. Now the question is, well, Allah's justice will be manifested in Qiyamah. Why do they have to return? They say no. Allah's manifestation of justice in this world takes one form, and the manifestation of Allah's justice in Qiyamah takes another form. In Qiyamah, if you recall, the rationale of divine punishment in the hereafter, we said was tajassumul a'mal. It's all your own doing. You act, and depending on how you act, those actions will be manifested in a different array of forms depending on how you act. That's the rationale of divine punishment. Not that Allah wants to punish you, it's all in your hands. But the manifestation of Allah's justice in this world, they bring the concept of that they have to return, the bad have to return. But this has different branches to it, which I'll speak about tonight, inshallah. And finally, another form of the exoteric Raj'at, which this is Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh's last position on the subject of Raj'at, and we'll speak of this a bit later on during the week, is that there will be a return, but this return is a return of physical prophets and imams, but not the same prophets and imams. It's the new cycle of people. Now we're in the cycle of Adam alayhi salam. The next cycle there'll be other prophets, like there were prophets and imams before Adam, and so on and so forth. This coming of the new prophets, and he believes that is Raj'at. And this, it would be something specific to Shiism also. Okay, so tonight and tomorrow I'll be exploring only the exoteric Raj'at, which is the form which people will return in their physical bodies. That form, which requires, I think, 2 lectures at best. And then from there we'll take things. Now, here, this is the istidlal that the theologians have given. I'm not here to say which one's right or wrong. I'm just giving you their positions on this. Their understanding of certain things may point you to one direction, but when we come to the Orafro's explanation, then you see that their understanding differs slightly. So you have to be a bit patient as we go through this. Okay, chapter 27, verse 82. The Quran reads, وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ, and when the word of punishment reaches them, if you like in brackets, but preceding resurrection. There's a reason I'm saying that, which will become evident in a minute. So when the word of punishment reaches them, أَخْرَجْنَا لَهُمْ, we shall bring out for them, دَابَّةً مِنَ الْأَرْضِ, a creature from earth, تُكَلِّمُهُمْ أَنَّ النَّاسَ كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا لَا يُوقِنُونَ, who shall speak to them, saying that the people had no faith in our signs. So Allah will bring forth a creature from earth. And then that creature will speak to people who didn't believe in Allah's signs. This will happen when the word of punishment reaches those people. Now, who is this creature from earth? And how is it related to this legislative return of Raj'at? Once someone, a friend of Ammar Yasir, was a disciple of Amir al-Mu'mineen, came to Ammar and said, there's this verse which has been occupying my mind for a while. I can't get to grips with it. So Ammar asked him, what's the verse? And he recited this verse, وَإِذَا وَقَعَ الْقَوْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ, which mentions the Dabbatan min al-ard, the creature from earth. Who is this creature from earth? The man asked. Ammar smiled and then replied, I swear by Allah that I shall neither eat, drink, nor sit until I show you this creature from earth. So he led the way, and the man, his friend, followed him. They reached the residence of Amir al-Mu'mineen, who was having lunch. On seeing Ammar, the Imam invited him in, and the two started dining together on the ground. So Ammar's friend now was a bit dumbstruck, because Ammar swore on oath that he won't eat, drink, sit down before he shows me the creature from earth. Ammar eventually returned and then was interrogated by the person as to why he broke his oath. And then Ammar gently replied, verily I had shown him to you, if only you had paid attention. Meaning that Amir al-Mu'mineen is the creature from earth who will appear when the word reaches them. Now, that, as I say, is a theologian's understanding of it, but this has esoteric dimensions to it too, but we're only confined to the external aspect for now. Another narration that buttresses the fact that Amir al-Mu'mineen is the creature from earth is the following: that once the Holy Prophet woke Amir al-Mu'mineen up, who was sleeping, and said, "Qum, ya dabbat al-ard, get up, awake, the creature from earth." And there were some companions there present. And on hearing this form of address given by the Holy Prophet, they asked the Holy Prophet, "Is this specific to Ali alayhi salam? Is he, he's a creature from earth that is referred to in chapter 2782? Is this something specific to him, or can we call one another Dabbat al-Ard when we, for example, meet one another?" The Holy Prophet said, "No, this is specific to Ali alayhi salam. He is the creature from earth, referred to in chapter 2782. He then turned towards Amir al-Mu'mineen and said, during the end of time being before Qiyamah, during the end of time, that's why I put the brackets when I translated the verse, when the word reaches them preceding resurrection. Allah will bring you on earth appearing in the best image, with the means to differentiate the enemies of Allah." But in Arabic is this: Ya Ali, إِذَا كَانَ آخِرُ الزَّمَانِ, when the end of time comes, أَخْرَجَكَ اللَّهُ, Allah will bring you forth, فِي أَحْسَنِ سُورَةٍ. Now, this word surah, which means image, will come to this when we go to the Urafa's perspective. Allah will bring you forth in the best image, وَمَعَكَ مَيْسَمٌ, and with you will be a Maysam. Now Maysam, not the name that some people, that male name, Muslim name, that's Maytham. That's with a tha, not a sin. Maysam here is with a sin. It means a branding iron. Whereas Maytham, in Arabic, I think it means a lion, a young lion or something. Here, with you will be a branding iron. تَسَمُّ بِهِ أَعْدَاءَكَ, with which you will brand, by means of it, your enemies. Which I translated as differentiating the enemies of Allah. No, there doesn't have to be a branding iron, brands like they do with cattle and livestock. So this is what the Holy Prophet said. So this Dabbat al-Ard, which will be brought forth one day, this is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Don't lose the plot. It's the exoteric return, where a select number of people will return in physical body form. Now here, the question arises as to why should those who accept this concept that a select number of people will return in their physical bodies, those who have passed away, what would be the need for them to return? Those who accept this idea of Raj'at, amongst the theologians, they say that in relation to the very pious, when they return, it's to complete their potential of perfection which was taken from them in this world. So in this world, when they were here, they had a good capacity to acquire perfection in different fields. And for whatever reason, either they were martyred, they were killed, or any other reason, that was cut short. And that disabled them from acquiring that perfection which they were worthy of. Raj'at, the physical Raj'at, for them would be this opportunity to acquire what they were worthy of. They were following a certain route, for example, fighting against oppression, fighting a war against evil enemies of whatever time. They strove, they did their duty, but they were unsuccessful in terms of not winning, for example. They were martyred. They won't have a chance to compensate for that lost perfection that they were worthy of acquiring. Why would the very evil have to return, according to those who accept this? And we'll explain their reasoning in a minute. Because many evil people have done evil things and they haven't been compensated, they haven't received their due worldly punishment. They believe that Allah's justice manifests in one manner in this world, and Allah's justice manifests in a different manner in the hereafter. In this world, in order for Allah's justice to be realized according to them, they say that even the evil will return because they didn't receive their due worldly punishment. For example, someone like Saddam, who was just hung, he deserved much more punishment-wise. So the very evil will return. Although I'll explain more about that in a minute. Okay. Now, the question is that, is such a thing possible, such a phenomenon, that those who have passed away to be revived, is that possible? And the answer is yes, it's within Allah's jurisdiction of things. It's not something impossible rationally for the dead to be revived. It's not like saying, can I put this car inside an egg? That's something which is rationally impossible. You can't put a car, a physical car, into a physical egg. There's no, don't say that, but Allah can do it. No, Allah's power doesn't extend to the impossible. Allah can't make 2 + 2 5. So it makes no sense to say that. So, but this is within Allah's jurisdiction. Has it happened before? That's the next question. And we say yes, and there are verses of the Quran which show this, and we're going to go through 3 of them very quickly in a minute. Can it happen again? We say yes. Well, the theologians who adhere to this perspective. Can it happen again? They say yes, and they use the verse in relation to Amir al-Mu'mineen's coming back. Okay, I want to go through just 3 verses very quickly. Chapter 2, verse 259. Or consider him, referring to Prophet Ezra, or Uzair, as they say in Arabic. Or consider him who encountered a small town, fallen into ruins. He, Prophet Uzair, said, how will Allah revive this after death? فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِئَةَ عَامٍ. Then Allah made him die for 100 years. ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ. Then Allah resurrected him. And Allah said, how long have you remained? Uzair said, I have remained a day or part of a day. So he had been dead for 100 years. Allah said, no, rather you have remained 100 years. Now look at your food and drink, which have not rotted. The food was preserved for 100 years. Then look at your donkey. The donkey was all burnt. After 100 years, it was all dusty and burnt. This was done that we make you a sign for mankind. We make you, the Prophet, a sign for mankind. Here, that which concerns us, this has many different dimensions we can speak about, this verse. That which concerns us here for now, although we'll speak more about it later, is that Allah made him die for 100 years and then revived him. So it's possible, this reviving of the dead. Now here, just one more, this is only a marginal point, I don't want to make too much out of this. Here the Prophet says, how will Allah revive this town, after its total death? It was all in ruins. The whole area was in ruins. Didn't the Prophet know that Allah can revive? Well, of course the Prophet knew. Here, prophets are intermediaries of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being an intermediary of Allah is being an intermediary between Haqq, Allah, and Khalq, the people. Prophets were intermediaries of Allah to the people, and they were intermediaries of the people to Allah. Prophets would receive revelation, visions, apparitions from Allah. They would also take the people's needs to Allah. This is what an intermediary does. They see what the needs of the people are, be they spiritual, material, whatever. Lack of understanding of certain things. They see what the people's needs are. He takes these needs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah gives him a sign in whatever form, be it revelation or other forms, that he then shows the people and answers the people's needs through that sign to the intermediary. Here at the end it says, at the end of the verse, this was done that we make you a sign for mankind. The people had a question. It was a legitimate question. They didn't understand something. They didn't understand this revival of the dead. Allah made his intermediary die so that the people understand. Otherwise the Prophet knows all this. Now that much I'll stop, but we'll come to this verse again. Because when it comes to the esoteric understanding, there's something important here. And Allah has referred to. Another verse, chapter 2, 243. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ خَرَجُوا مِنْ دِيَارِهِمْ. Haven't you seen those who have left their homes? وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ, in their thousands, حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ, apprehensive of death. فَقَالَ لَهُمُ اللَّهُ, Allah said to them, مُوتُوا, die. ثُمَّ أَحْيَاهُمْ, then he revived them. Now this was in relation to the tribe of Bani Israel. Their duty was to go and do jihad against the enemy. They were commanded by the Prophet at that time. Since there was an infection spreading in that area, the people didn't want to leave their homes. If they were to leave their homes, they would be infected. But they were ordered to go to war. So what happened was they wanted to, all escape. So they didn't go to war and they didn't want to be infected either. So Allah says, die, they all died, and then they all go back to life again. It's a story in the Quran. But there's one thing which one hasn't shown to miss out. This coming, this reviving, what form does it take? And that's something very crucial, which we'll come to later. And in chapter 2, verse 55 and 56, and when you said, O Moses, we don't believe you until we see Allah visibly, thereupon a thunderbolt seized you as you looked on. ثُمَّ بَعَثْنَاكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَوْتِكُمْ, then we raised you after your death, لَعْلَكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ, so that you may give thanks. The same concept of reviving the dead applies here. The story of Prophet Isa, alayhi salam, Jesus, chapter 510, وَإِذْ تُخْرِجُ الْمَوْتَى بِإِذْنِي, and you would raise the dead with my permission. These are all examples of people who are dead coming back to life. So, in broad terms, Raj'at is the revival or the resurrection of life after death, in broad terms. But this sheer concept, this position of it, is this resurrection within a specific context. But as a general concept that dead people can be revived, that's accepted by all. But within a specific context, that a certain people will be revived at a certain time, at the end of time, after the King will taught them all. So all the very good and the very bad, that's under debate. But the actual concept of Raj'at, in this sense, there's no need to deny. Now, it's only its particularities that can be exposed to further criticism or evaluation. But in any case, it's different to Ma'ad. It's different to Qiyamah. It all occurs in this world, according to this theory. Now, in relation to the philosophy of Raj'at, according to this position, I'll just mention two verses, two traditions, and then I'll explore one verse of the Quran, which is very important for the adherence of this position. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, "Inna Raj'ata laysat bi'am." Raj'at isn't an all-inclusive matter. وَهِيَ خَاصَّةٌ. It's a specific matter. Specific to a select number of people, not everyone. It doesn't include everyone. لا يرجع إلا من محض الإيمان محضا ومحض الشرك محضا. Only those with pure iman and pure shirk, polytheism, only they will return. So it's only a specific people who will return, not an all-inclusive matter. Not everyone will return. Why do they return? Because in relation to the very pious, they will compensate for the lost potential that they had in this world. They were worthy, as a result of their actions, to be more and more perfect. But that perfection was cut short by them being martyred or any other reason. Why would the very evil have to return? Because they did a lot of bad in this world, and then they died. But their death was incomparable to the evil they did. It was something very simple. They would also have to return to be compensated in this world in a way which is on a par with the evil that they did in this world. Okay. Finally, chapter 28, verse 77. Just drink water.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Chapter 28, verse 77. وَابْتَغِ فِيمَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ. Seek through that which Allah has given you the abode of the hereafter. Seek, search for that which Allah has given you in this world. Okay? Seek the hereafter through what Allah has given you. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ. Whilst not forgetting your share min ad-dunya, in this world. This is very important. Everyone has been given a share in this world. You seek the hereafter through that which Allah has given you, but don't forget your share in this world. وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Do good just as Allah has done good to you. وَلَا تَبْغِ الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And don't attempt causing corruption في الأرض, in the land. Here, each person has been allocated a share in this world. Not we weren't all born in the same place with the same parents. We didn't all go to the same school. Our destinies are all different. Our shares are different. Every person has been given a share. Now, there are either those who make use of their share in this world rightfully and properly, and there are those who don't strive for their share rightfully and properly. There's two groups of people now. Concerning those who strive for their share properly and rightfully, they are further divided into two groups. There are those who reach perfection when they use their share rightfully and properly, and there are those who don't attain towards perfection. They used their share properly, but they didn't reach perfection. They either died early, they were oppressed, they were martyred, they were prevented in some way or fashion, but they did strive. They did their duty, but it was cut short. Concerning those who used and strove for their share properly and rightfully, and they reached perfection after death, it's barzakh and then qiyamah. There's no returning for them. They acquired their aims. But those who were worthy of more perfection, but they were martyred, for example, they would come back. Raj'at will apply to them according to this theory. They will come back because they didn't acquire that perfection. And Allah is all just. And that justice has to manifest itself in this world, in addition to the hereafter. They will return according to the theologians. And that's why they believe that all the imams will return. They were ma'soom, but in relation to perfection, in the realm of guiding people and governing them, only one of them had government, and even he wasn't allowed for too long. He was martyred. They will all return, they will all govern. That perfection that they were barred from, they will acquire in this world. And that's why they believe in the return, the Raj'at of all the imams and the prophets in their physical form. This is their philosophy. Now this has to be argued later. Next we come to the other side, the other group of people who didn't strive for their share rightfully. They didn't strive as they should have done. These are also divided into two groups. There are those who haven't striven for their share. There are those who they didn't strive, but they weren't drowned in evil. Maybe this would apply to most of us. That we didn't strive as we should have in this world. But we weren't drowned in evil. We weren't evil people. Since we didn't strive in this world, we won't return either. Because we didn't strive. Why should you return to acquire that perfection? You didn't lay the groundwork for that perfection when you were in this world. So there'll be no Raj'at for you. But then there's another group who didn't strive in relation to their share in this world, but they were drowned in evil. Okay? Now they were drowned in evil. This group who didn't strive for their share rightfully, and who were drowned in evil, they can be divided into two groups. Sorry, it's a bit complicated. So here, they didn't strive for their share, but they were drowned in evil. These people are divided into two groups. Those who receive their due worldly punishment in this world, and those who didn't receive their due worldly punishment in this world. Those who received their due worldly punishment when they went this world, there will be no return for them, because Allah's justice in this world for them qualified. But those who didn't receive their due worldly punishment, and they were drowned in evil, and they didn't strive, these people will return, so that they receive their due punishment. Now, in relation to those who won't return because they received their due punishment whilst in this world, there's a verse of the Quran that the theologians refer to. I mean, others, they don't accept this, but I'm just giving you positions now. I'm not in a position to say this is the final thing. chapter 21, verse 95, وَحَرَامٌ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ أَهْلَكْنَاهَا أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. This word qarya, the word city in the Quran, sometimes you see the word Medina used. Sometimes you see the word qarya used. And they both mean city. But there has to be a difference of meaning. Otherwise, letter to letter, the Quran is all based on wisdom. Sorry. So, the city where the common trends of the people is tending towards evil or vice, that city, whenever you see the word qarya, is referring to such a people that reside in that city. The majority is tending towards vice. Here the Quran calls that city a qarya. Whenever the city knows a good city, the majority are towards virtue, they're abiding and so on and so forth. The Quran calls that city Medina. Anyway, here the verse says it's haram, it's forbidden, upon the city that we have destroyed for them to return. They won't return. أَنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. They will not return. لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. The adherents use this and there's no Raj'at for them. Why? Because they were very evil. They didn't strive for their shirk. They were very evil. They were drowned in evil. However, they received their due punishment in this world. The tribes, the punishment that they received wasn't a normal earthquake that we see here. It was much more severe. So severe that their punishment was given to them in this world. There'll be no Raj'at for them. Okay, I'll stop here, inshallah, and tomorrow we'll continue with this perspective and finish this perspective. Tomorrow, at the end of this perspective, we'll just raise its problems, inshallah. Now, I did promise that I would do words of musibah. The time has passed, but I'm not very good with words of musibah. You have to forgive me, I don't have that energy, but I think it's good, at least for some of you to know. It's like a bit of history with your permission. So Muawiyah died in 60 AH after Hijrah. The people of Kufa, which was the center of Shiism at that time, saw that the government was to be conveyed to Yazid, and they couldn't accept this. The governor of Kufa at the time was Nu'man ibn Bashir. He was very conservative, neither here or there. He was very precautionary in his actions. The head of this movement against Yazid becoming the Khalifa was Sulaiman ibn Surad al-Khudai. He suggested inviting Hussein alayhi salam to act as Khalifa. So they sent 18,000 letters of allegiance to the Imam, many of those letters signed by more than one person. Imam Hussein alayhi salam sent Muslim ibn Aqil, who was his cousin, to observe the status quo. Muslim was welcomed warmly initially, and he wrote to Imam Hussein, acknowledging and confirming the high spirits of the people. On hearing the news, Hussein, who was in Mecca, decided to move onwards towards Kufa. This was more wajib. Yazid was informed of Sulaiman ibn Surad's uprising and allegiances. Kufa was the process of transformation. Yazid sent Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, who was then the governor of Basra, and he assigned Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad as governor of Kufa, as well, in addition to Basra. So he took the conservative Nu'man ibn Bashir out, and Yazid put someone who was much more attacking and frank in his ill feelings against the Ahlul Bayt, and assigned Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, governor of Kufa, in order to protect and guard the interests of Yazid.